Okay, and we are recording. Okay, so I am going to go over just a recap of NAR settlement key points, and then a few things. I'm not going to go over obviously, all the slides from last time. We have that recorded, and we went over, it was like 60 slides. It was a lot of slides. I just did a little bit of a summary here before we dive into the new stuff. So the settlement goals to secure liability release for as many members and associations and MLSs as possible, preserve consumer choices regarding real estate services and compensation. The key terms of the settlement: liability release for NAR and its members, associations, MLSs, and smaller brokerages. Compensation offers moved off MLS platforms. Written agreements required for MLS participants working with buyers. The $418 million settlement payment that NAR agreed to will be paid out approximately over 4 years, and NAR denies any wrongdoing. Changes to compensation policy, of course, prohibiting offers of compensation on the MLS. Compensation can still be negotiated off the MLS. Sellers can offer buyer concessions on the MLS, and most of our Texas MLSs have already added in a concession field and removed the compensation or commission or co-op percentage fields. As of Monday or Tuesday, everyone took it off. So preliminary approval was granted on April 24th. Practice changes effective this Saturday, August 17th. Final approval hearing is scheduled for November 26th, but NAR has stated that there's a 90% chance that it'll be approved. The slight chance that it may not be approved or it needs revision, it won't change what they've already laid out as far as our all these forms, and like the state forms are going to stay. The MLSs are still going to remove the compensation fields. That's not going to change regardless of what happens. Kristen, I haven't seen that. The Michigan agents.
Yeah, it was just like
tell
on
me about it.
Monday. I guess they're suing NAR because of all of this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I should look into that, but there are a lot of residual lawsuits happening. There's just been a lot. So our Radius's stance on this is that we are not seceding from NAR. We are staying with NAR. We are considered, a smaller brokerage that we're really a mid-size brokerage if you think about it, but a mid-size brokerage that, we want that release of liability that NAR, the settlement, is providing to us. So we're not seceding. The rationale for settlement: reduce liability for members and small businesses, avoid prolonged litigation and uncertainty. We all experienced that earlier this year. It was a lot. Provide a path forward for the industry, which this has. Exclusions: so agents affiliated with home services and some larger brokerages, like KW, Redfin, there were like 5 of them. Those brokerages are not included in the release of liability, and the agents affiliated with them are not. No change in NAR membership dues for 24 or 25 due to this settlement payment. So those are the key points here. Now, the NAR MLS rules, this is a recap. Its effective date is this Saturday, but again, it's already been implemented. Eliminate and prohibit any requirement of offers of compensation in the MLS. Eliminate and prohibit MLS participants from making any offers of compensation in the MLS. Require the MLS to eliminate all of the broker compensation fields. Require the MLS to not create, facilitate, or support any non-MLS mechanism for participants, subscribers or sellers, to make offers, meaning that if there's an IDX feed on your website, then you can't put compensation listed on your website. If it's at all, it's like a 2 clicks sort of rule. If it's 2 clicks away from the MLS, do not put it on there. So that also includes, like, if you're on Instagram, you can put it on Instagram, but if you're putting it on Instagram with a link to the MLS listing, from the MLS, that's not okay. Prohibit the use of MLS data or data feeds. That's what I was just talking about. Reinforce that MLS participants cannot enable the ability to filter out or restrict MLS listings that are communicated to customers or clients based on the level of compensation given. But that's not even, you don't have to worry about that because the fields are gone. Require compensation disclosures to sellers as well as prospective sellers and buyers. We have those disclosures now. Require any MLS participant working with a buyer to enter into a written agreement with that buyer prior to touring a property. That was probably the biggest change for us here in Texas. Here is the resources slide that was shared in the last webinar. Please take a screenshot because it has a lot of stuff that is useful for you. So the NAR settlement website, new forms, FAQs from Texas Realtors, the NAR settlement facts, HAR settlement facts, because all of the big MLSs in our state also were included in a subsequent lawsuit. If you have any suggested form changes, please email that to forums@texasrealtors.com. They want to hear from you. The people who approved these form changes are attorneys. They're not the ones who are with buyers and sellers every day. So as you're using these forms, they want to hear if you have a suggestion. And then here's the Texas Realtors legal hotline. I say put it on speed dial in your phone, because if anything comes up that's a legal matter, it is nice to have that legal hotline. Now, just note, I do get notified when you make a call, but don't worry. It doesn't mean anything as far as I'm concerned. I'm happy that you're proactive and asking questions in that way. Again, I've always said too, if you have legal questions, always come to me right away. Let me know. But this legal hotline is a really great resource for us. Okay, this is a big one. The Form 2701, it's a temporary form, so it will go away at some point. This is the amendment to representation agreement. So if you have an existing listing agreement, prior to 6/24, so June 24th, if you had a listing agreement signed prior to that, or you had a buyer tenant rep signed prior to that, then you need to use this form just to make it compliant with the NAR settlement. So that's absolutely very important. Again, at some point, this form is going to, go away because it's not going to be needed. Okay. Which compensation forms to use? This is what I've shared with a few of you, including you, Kristen. Hope this was helpful. So, there's so many scenarios that I've had to wrap my head around too. And I found a resource on Texas Realtors website that kind of outlined the different scenarios and what to use. So of course, if the seller and buyer are paying their own brokers, meaning there's no shared compensation here, then you don't need any additional compensation agreements other than your listing agreement and your buyer rep agreement, the BRA. So the representation agreements would authorize the title company to pay the broker fees. So you wouldn't need anything additional. If the listing broker agrees to pay the buyer's broker, okay, compensation between brokers, so the 2402, that's needed. It's executed by the listing broker and the buyer's broker before the offer is presented. That's the interesting part. It's before the offer is presented. Does anyone have any questions about this? You're welcome to stop me at any time. So then you would also need the 2406. That's the addendum regarding broker fees. This is executed by the seller and the buyer and can be included as part of an offer package delivered to a seller. It may also be executed later in the transaction. So these two would go together if the listing broker is paying the buyer's broker. Now here's a note here. So it tells you checkbox D1 on this 2406. So doing that serves the same function as the compensation disclosure located at the bottom of page 10 on the contract. So it notifies the title company of the broker-to-broker compensation agreement. If the only fee the buyer's broker is receiving is from the listing broker, you can insert the amount on page 10 of the sales contract, and you would then not need the addendum regarding broker's fees, the 2406. So this is the 2406 is needed if that box, paragraph D1, if that wasn't checked on the contract, that's when you need the 2406. I know it's really specific.
Yeah.
We'll all get the
trying
hang
to
of it.
wrap my head around it because I'm looking at the 2406 right now because I already had it pulled up.
Yeah.
But do you have a 2402 easy access? Because I got the 2401 and the 2406, but I don't have the 2402
Yeah. Let's see.
and the 2701. I have that one up into. Only because I want to see the difference in the forms.
Yeah, let me see. Let me pull it
I
up.
feel like I'm taking over this meeting here.
This is fine. This is kind of informal. Let's see. I didn't want to have to.
I'm surprised there aren't more Texas agents on this today, given what's happening this week.
I know sometimes the timing just doesn't work, but then they'll view it later.
Yeah, I know a lot of schools started this week, so
Yes,
that
my
could be
son
part of it.
too.
If it's not easy, it's okay. I can look it up later. I just didn't know if you had it open already.
I have it right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to share this screen. So compensation agreement between brokers. Are you seeing this right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And this is the 2401.
This is the 2402.
2402. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. I'll need to pull that one up and get it in our new templates then.
Yeah, that one. I would just say, put these forms in your templates, like all of them.
Yeah, that's what I've been working on. Yeah.
I know, and then I know you're super organized. Okay.
Only to have Radius lovingly give us a new system in maybe a few weeks to redo them all.
I know. I know it's hard doing the transition with new tech, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
If the seller agrees to pay the buyer's broker using separate compensation agreement, then you would want the 2401. This is between broker and owner. So if you've had the buyer and you brought it to like a for sale by owner,
Mm-hmm.
this is the compensation agreement you would need to be executed right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If the seller isn't being represented by a broker.
exactly.
Yeah.
If there's unrepresented. And then the addendum regarding broker fees, the 2406, this is executed by the seller and the buyer and can be included as part of an offer package delivered to a seller. If the seller agrees to pay the buyer's broker as part of a sales contract, then it's the 2406.
Mm-hmm.
2406. Okay, so that was my recap.
Whereas I'm glad we did that because I thought the 2406 was just kind of the one we're using no matter what. So I'm glad that I know that there's a difference now. So
yeah, exactly. So if you have it in the purchase contract, in the new purchase contract, so then you wouldn't need it, which is really nice. I think that's what you should try to do. I think maybe this won't be needed very often, right? But for now, it'll be needed.
yeah. And then I had asked this via email. I'm sure people who are going to watch this video later, but do we need to get any of these forms signed for transactions that we have under contract but have not closed?
I would.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I
Okay.
definitely would. Yeah, because
Even
you
if
don't
like
have the issue at the
we
end.
have one closing on Monday and one closing on Thursday next week. So it's like, well, you're just past the date.
Well, yeah, I definitely would.
Yeah. Okay.
And anything, well, you have the active listings or the pending listings that
Mhm.
were the PDF, right? Like you have a PDF of the listing printout because
Yes.
that will prove too.
Yeah.
However, I just would. I
Mhm.
would get these signed so that there's no issues and you can
Yeah.
get paid. Yeah, the last thing you'd want to do is not get paid. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. The Texas market update. So I'm going to go through these and we can absolutely have time for Q&A. So this is, I pulled all of these reports from June 2024 because I think we're just shy of having July data. And I think HAR maybe just put July data out today. So, but this is for June. Okay. So statewide, median price is down just 0.8% year over year. I mean, that's not very much. So it's still at 345. Um, Active listings are up 40% year over year. Closed sales down 12% year over year. Days on market unchanged year over year. So it's still like 52 days of marketing, 34 days to, of escrow period, and then 86 days total. So that's been consistent. Months of inventory is 4.6, meaning this is statewide, meaning that we're in a balanced market. That's actually a good thing, not a seller's, not a buyer's overall, right? But now we're going to drill down into our three major markets. So Houston. So the Houston metro area, your median price is up 0.7% year over year, but 345 is the same. Active listings are up 33.8% and closed sales are down 11.6. Very consistent, right, with our state overall.
Mhm.
Months of inventory are at 4.3. So that's still it's still like a balanced market. Now, last year we were 3.3 months of inventory that's a seller's market. So we're heading into the direction, we're in a balanced marketplace. So I did read just the Houston data there was some data that came out today regarding July and how the hurricane did affect the number of closed sales. However, it was the luxury market that actually carried it to be a successful month in July.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah, absolutely. That just came out. Um, so these are DFW numbers from MetroTex. So the median price is down 1.2%, but yet 405 is still a little bit higher than the state median. And again, median is different from average. The average price is much higher usually. Active listings are up 44.7% year over year. That's quite a lot. Closed sales down 11.6%, which is almost similar, almost right on with Houston market. And then the days on market is 78 days. That's about right. Months of inventory is 3.8. So it's a seller's market in DFW. And it's heading its way to a balanced market because 2.5 were the months of inventory last year at this time. So it's just it's moving into a balanced. Yeah. Now, Central Texas. So this is from Austin Board of Realtors, and this is interesting to me because Central Texas region really led our state during the last 5 years with just exorbitant, increases and all of this. The pricing was just really high. So here, median price is down 6.3% year over year. And the median price is 450. So it's still leading the state with the median price. Active listings are up 25.9% year over year, so not quite as much as like DFW. And closed sales down 13% year over year. Now, months of inventory is 5 months. That's the highest since 2011. So a lot, I mean, I remember the last few years, there were hardly any listings. So they're a balanced market. 5.5 months of inventory is a balanced market. And again, some people see this as maybe moving into a buyer's market, but not quite. So Q&A. So I kind of wanted to point out too, just that going into a balanced market and then heading into a buyer's market, I mean, that's normal ebb and flow of the real estate market. I mean, it just is. It's cyclical. But what's interesting about that is all of this, talk about the buyer compensation from listings. And when it is balanced and into buyer's market, you're going to see a lot more sellers are going to be willing to pay a buyer's agent as a marketing cost. I mean, that's how I put it. It's a marketing cost for the seller in order to get the deals that they want, in order to get the offers and a really good price. So it's all negotiable, but I do see buyer's agents as still getting compensated from seller proceeds. Does anyone have any questions? I kind of breezed through that.
Are you guys going to be hosting any rooms, kind of reviewing scripts for both sides? Only because our
Yeah.
presentations to buyers and sellers have to change.
Yes.
So I think too, there's Oscar and I have talked about this. I think there's going to be like a big education curve for the average buyer and seller too, but more so a buyer is used to calling us up saying, hey, can I see this house? And then us maybe taking them to see a couple homes before we have any BRA signed, and that has to change, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess I'm asking, do you have anything on the calendar scheduled to kind of go over that verbiage that people are hopefully will have success with in those conversations?
Yeah, we have had script class before, so it's not a big deal to like put that on the calendar for the next week or two. I'll talk to Dee about that and see if we can tag team it. Yeah, definitely, it's a good idea to have some scripting and just have something in your back pocket to where you really do have a new script when you're talking to buyers. Dee and I recommend having that. It's like a buyer consultation. I mean, you can name it whatever you want, but it's definitely a meeting in person or over Zoom with that buyer, and that's a new procedure. A lot of agents haven't been doing that. We haven't really needed to. We're like, hey, yeah, I'll show it. Meet you there in a couple hours. Like that's how it's been. Understandably so, but it's just different now. So coming up with that workflow as a team, like what your team is going to be doing, I think that's important to have a consistent process for how to speak to buyers, how to get them in, how to get them signing a BRA right away. And so you have to be able to build trust with them. I think that's going to be a residual thing too with the way we market. We're going to need to get that trust factor going before we even have a first buyer call.
Right. So along those same lines, there's the form that you can have somebody sign if you're only going to show them the one property. There's the fuller buyer representation agreement as well. But the MLS here in the Houston area has sent out notices about fining. How fines, there's no like leeway period. If I guess my question I'm getting to is, how is this going to be regulated? How obviously we're going to get these things signed, but are we having to show HAR that we have a BRA, one page or the full extended one on this particular buyer? Because I feel like it's kind of a slippery slope, because it's the definition of what services are you providing for that particular potential buyer. It isn't always just showing a home. It could be setting up a search on the portal that could constitute in NAR's eyes as representing or working for that buyer. And so then if we're even doing a search, we have to have this document signed.
So one of the best classes I took was from HAR. like a month and a half ago. I recommend everybody taking one of the courses, the contracts courses from your MLS. But again, the hard course was really great. And it was a 3-hour class that fulfilled the contracts, CE requirement that you have. But anyway, it was 3 hours of diving in deep to these new forms. And what she said, what the teacher said was that enforcement, that's a big question right now. A lot of people have. And so you will need to be able to, first of all, it's self-policing. So you're going to be like policing each other in a way, enforcing it with each other, because there's no way HAR is going to be able to go after or manage and monitor this with 40,000 agents who are showing buyers things. It's like impossible. How would you possibly do that? So with us,
and the other layer is also like internet leads, right? So we do have clients that we've gotten from an internet lead who at times will maybe chat with a little bit, but then set up a search for before we even meet or anything like that. And that search could be going on for months, before we do anything. And so at that point,
the search is not included with this. You can give search information. So here's the thing. The only thing that NAR settlement requires is that you are getting a BRA of some sort signed before any property tours. And the other thing, though, if you
I think some states are interpreting that differently, because I was asked to kind of look around on social media to see what other agents across are saying.
Yeah, what states are you talking about?
I have no idea. This is on TikToks or something, right? And agents are just like expressing what they're going through, because there are states who had this change a month or two ago, and so I came across one today. I'll have to, because I sent it to Oscar, so I can probably go back and see, but where she is from. But she was basically saying, they are making them have this agreement even if they're setting them up in the portal with a search, because you are providing a service for them. So
I mean,
that's why I asked that question, right?
Yeah, Kristen. So from my perspective as a compliance person, right, you're okay with doing, having one of those automated online search things for someone. But as soon as you have a conversation and you're giving any kind of advice or implying an agency relationship, you've got to have the BRA signed.
Yeah. So I guess that's the question too. Like, what of our
Yes.
standard automated text flows to these internet leads?
Yeah, exactly.
Where does it constitute that relationship to be aware of? Okay.
Well, essentially, you don't have a relationship unless you have a BRA signed. That's it. So, and that's just the bottom line. So if you're helping these buyers, you could very well be the listing agent. You have to disclose that to the buyer. That's why, like, even with open houses, if you're the listing agent holding an open house, you have to disclose to the prospective buyers who are walking in, that I don't represent you. I represent the seller.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's very interesting. And if you want to, if it's okay with the seller and you're able to, represent both sides, you're basically not giving fiduciary duties to both sides. You are a facilitator of a deal. So the seller needs to understand that too. If they're willing for you to kind of facilitate the deal with the buyer, then you would essentially need to get them to sign that BRA. The buyer would.
Yeah, I suspect Oscar, until things level out, he'll probably
I know. This is the tricky part. Yeah.
Refer it out or something like that. Or have somebody else on our team manage that. So interesting.
Yeah, I would do that too.
There's just a lot of unknown, and so I think it's just going to be a crazy 60, 90 days until people kind of get into a flow, and some of these hypothetical situations trickle out, Yeah,
exactly. Well, keep me posted how it is out in the field. Absolutely. because y'all are, getting all of it, seeing it all
Yeah.
firsthand.
My teammate Jennifer is on this call. I don't know if she has any questions.
Yeah. Does
Jennifer?
anyone else have questions? Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Kathy. And no, I don't have any questions, but thank you, Kristen.
Okay, great. Yeah.
You can
So,
always email me, or you can email, email support@radiusagent.com. That's also another nice inbox if you have a general question, and someone will, route it to it'll be routed to the right person right away. So if you have any issues, but let me work on those PDFs for you, Kristen.
thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And yeah, I guess if there's no other questions, then we will stop and have